The best brother in the world.
I've got the best brother in the world, although sometimes I think he's not sure about me. He can be of two minds or ambivalent about me. It's not his fault, really, because I'm a paraplegic, which means I can't move my legs. I can't wiggle my toes or kick a ball. And most importantly, I can't walk. I lost the use of my legs when I was in a car accident. My dad was driving me to the planetarium, which he loved, and I was chatting away beside him in the passenger's seat. Then a car materialized out of nowhere, screeching right toward me, dust billowing behind it as its brakes squealed. I didn't even have time to scream. Dad tried to steer us away, but it was no good. The car hit us hard. There was a terrible crunching sound, and everything faded to black. For some indeterminate time, I was unconscious. When I forced open my heavy eyes, I was staring directly at my brother Samuel. I was lying flat in a bed, and he was sitting beside it, looking concerned. It's quite disturbing seeing someone look at you with such a worried expression. I felt blurry and confused, and noticed strange little details. A machine whirred and beeped beside me, and tubes led to my arm. The bed was expertly made and had bright white sheets on it. "Everything," I said. "It's going to be okay, Ellie," he said to me. I started to twist in the bed, trying to move, but "Shh, it's going to be okay." Samuel put a hand on my arm to calm me. This was quite weird because I don't think he'd ever been so kind to me. Like a typical older brother, he usually teased me. I felt a bit more relaxed, but wondered what was going on. "I'll just go and fetch Mom and Dad," Samuel said. When you lose the use of your legs, you realize how crucial they are. You have to rely on other people pretty regularly. When I left the hospital, I insisted that I would push my own wheelchair. I was an independent person, and no one was going to help me. This was fine when we were in the hospital, where the wheelchair rolled smoothly over the flat floor, and the elevators took us directly to the car park. But when we arrived home, it was a different story, because our walkway is particularly steep. I tried to roll myself up, but each time I let go of the chair's wheels, I slid straight back down again. After 3 tries, I was so tired and discouraged that I burst into frustrated tears. Without saying anything, Samuel grasped the handles on my wheelchair and gently pushed me up the walkway while I wept with sorrow. To explain Samuel's feelings toward me, you have to understand that I'll always be a paraplegic. So, while Samuel was good-humored enough to push me up the walkway the first time, the second time it was a bit more trying for him. The third time it was more demanding, And the 1,000th time? I'd suggest that by the 1,000th time, Samuel's arms were as exhausted as mine, and he likely wanted to cry too. "Do I have to?" he says to Mom and Dad. "Do I have to push her up the walkway? Do I have to carry her to the couch? Do I have to have her as a sister?" Actually, he never spits out that last one, but I imagine that's what he's thinking. His face constantly betrays him. He scowls and furrows his forehead when he gets frustrated. Recently, my parents accompanied Samuel and me to the mall, which was overrun by families enjoying free time together on the weekend. We needed to buy groceries, and our parents wanted to look for some light fittings, plaster, nuts and bolts, and other assorted things for our house. At the supermarket, Mom examined the two of us thoughtfully. "Samuel, could you accompany Ellie to the clothes store so that she can buy a new dress for summer? We'll meet you there once we're finished." "Yes, that's a tremendous idea," I said just prior to catching sight of the bleak look in Samuel's eyes. He looked as though he'd died a little death. Maybe not a little death, but he certainly looked hesitant. Eventually, though, he agreed. As we were walking to the clothes store, a voice called out urgently, "Sam!" A posse of Samuel's friends swaggered towards us. They slouched around and tried to act cool. "Awesome to see you," said Jeremy, who was Samuel's best friend. "Hey, want to come bowling with us?" Samuel said, "I can't. I'm accompanying Ellie to the clothes store to buy a dress." "Yikes! She could accompany herself," said Max sarcastically. Max isn't our family's favorite person because he's so aggressive. We all agree that Jeremy is friendlier than Max is. "I promised I'd go with her," said Samuel, sounding dejected. "So you're headed for the clothes store for girls?" said Max, who was rubbing it in and enjoying it. I suppose he wanted to embarrass Samuel. That annoyed Samuel, who straightened up and replied with equal rudeness, "Yes, she's a girl. Didn't you notice?" Max backed off, looking humiliated. As Samuel pushed me toward the clothes store, he said mournfully, "Why do I have to suffer all the time?" The attire at the store was breathtaking. There were dozens of spectacular dresses with complex cuts, asymmetrical styles, inner hoops, and other wild fashions. There were even some long flowing ones that made me look like an ancient queen. When I went to the fitting room, Samuel collapsed into a chair as if something had given way inside him. When I returned, I made him tell me which dresses he liked, which didn't really help things, I guess. He just grunted something I couldn't understand. In the end, I decided that a long flowing dress suited me best. When my parents arrived, they bought the dress and barely noticed Samuel's attitude at all.
Did you have a good time?
Said Dad when they arrived. "Oh, yes," I said. "The dresses were magnificent." "The best time of my life," said Samuel. all I've ever wanted to do is choose dresses for Ellie. It was my one ambition in life, so I guess I can die happy now." "Stop it, Sam," said Mom. "Behave." "Why am I the one getting in trouble?" he said. On the way home, Samuel stared moodily at the scenery through the window without speaking.
Sam, when we arrive, why don't you call up Jeremy?
Said Dad.
You could do one of those complicated puzzles you like.
Samuel grunted in response, looking bothered and uninterested. "What does that mean?" said Mom. "Oh, nothing," said Samuel. "There's no justice in this world." When we arrived home, Samuel helped me into the wheelchair, but by the time he was ready to push me up the walkway, Mom and Dad were already at the front door, oblivious to the two of us. Something else broke in Samuel, and he lost control. "That's it!" he yelled. "I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not helping Ellie ever again. She's such a drag." And Samuel stormed up the walkway as my parents stared in shock. Samuel hunkered down in his room like a fox in his hole. Maybe being alone was good for him, but I was horrified. Why was I such a drag, such a burden? If the trauma of the accident wasn't bad enough, now I felt guilt wash over me like an incoming tide. I knocked softly on his door. "Samuel?" "No, go away." There was a brooding tone in his voice, which suggested he wanted to be alone. "I'm sorry," I said in a barely audible voice. Then I dragged myself into my room. I wanted to hide too. Much later, I heard someone at my door. I assumed it was Mom or Dad, ready to comfort me. Instead, Samuel wandered into my room and sat in a chair. "You're not a drag," he said. "Yes, I am," I countered. "Well, just a little one." He grinned. "But that's okay." I grinned back at him. "You can be a pain too." That's true." "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow in your new dress," he said brightly as he stood up and walked out of the room. Suddenly, I didn't feel so sorrowful after all. In fact, I was looking forward to the next day. And that's why I have the best brother in the world. I don't know what I'd do without him.
Discuss.
What does the narrator say to help you understand what life is like using a wheelchair? Quote examples from the passage to support your answer.